Alright! Welcome to Rockstar! Now, just so you all know, we're gonna cover this topic as fast and as completely as we can. Just the way you like it. Thanks for watching!
Chapter 1. Leonardo da Vinci. Imagine being at the very cusp of change in the world. Actually participating as one way of life is ending and a new way of life begins. All you have to do is take a moment and look around. We're doing just that, right now. We're in the early stages of the digital world, where we're connected by media, the internet, and social media. And that's only the beginning. People like Steve Jobs and Bill Gates have led the way in this new era. Nothing will ever be the same, and we're all a part of that change. There have been other big moments in history where time and opportunity have collided in just the right way to create new beginnings. When Christopher Columbus sailed to the New World and discovered America, when Einstein revolutionized physics and how we all viewed the world, when the Wright brothers made the first flight possible at Kitty Hawk. They led to Charles Lindbergh, Amelia Earhart, and eventually even to Neil Armstrong's walk on the moon in 1969. These were all moments that were created by people who saw our world and challenged the status quo. They dared to be different and think new thoughts. A similar period in time occurred in the late 1300s up through the 1500s in Europe. This time of cultural change was known as the Renaissance, starting in northern Italy during the 14th century and spreading throughout Europe by the 16th century, like a drop into a pond where the ripples expand outward and outward until the whole surface of the lake is moving. In this case, the ripples from the Renaissance were felt in literature, philosophy, art, music, politics, science, religion, exploration, and just about every other field you can think of. It was a whole new era of culture. So how did the Renaissance happen? If society can suddenly just have a bunch of big improvements, seemingly overnight, how come it doesn't happen all the time? Well, history had to line up just right. In the years before the Renaissance era, there had been the disastrous 1300s, when a couple of horrible events made life nearly unbearable. First, there was a little ice age, where the Baltic Sea froze over, something that had never been recorded before. It led to starvation, disease, and raids by English pirates. There was a loss of contact between many areas that wouldn't resume until the 1700s. The people were weakened by the little ice age, but it was the bubonic plague that really brought life to a standstill. Italy lost about 75% of its citizens during the plague. There was also the 100 Years' War from 1337 to 1450, which raged through France and England, but involved Italy too. So you have starvation, the plague, war, even episodes of hysteria and religious fanaticism. By the mid-1400s, people were ready for change. The worst of times was ending, and European society was on the mend. The term Renaissance was first used in the late 14th century by Italian scholars who saw themselves as the front line in a period of improved conditions. When we talk about the Renaissance, one man stands out as a creator and leader of change: Leonardo da Vinci. The Renaissance was a great time to be born brilliant. Many of his accomplishments weren't fully understood or recognized in his own lifetime, but luckily for Leonardo, his quest for knowledge wasn't so that everyone would admire how smart he was. It was for self-fulfillment. He studied things because he had an intense urge to learn all about them. He was a man of questions who loved to search the world for answers. How did shells get to be on the top of a mountain? Do bursting bubbles make a sound? Where do rivers come from? Where does the water flow to? Can the wind carry a person? To us, these might seem like simple questions, but Leonardo was born in the mid-1400s in Italy. During the time of Leonardo, religion, not science, was the answer to all things. Few people had a mind for such thoughts. But Leonardo couldn't think of anything else. He's truly the original Renaissance man, meaning he was someone who excels in a wide variety of subjects. The concept was born in the Renaissance, when a bunch of great thinkers emerged who shone in both art and science. Another way to describe Leonardo da Vinci is to say he was a polymath, which is a Greek word meaning having learned much. Just like a Renaissance man, a polymath succeeds in many different areas. Da Vinci definitely meets these requirements. He was a true genius, a painter, sculptor, scientist, mathematician, engineer, and naturalist. He was born into a time when only an elite few had ever seen a book, yet he was able to absorb random strands of information and form these ideas into solid theories, connecting math and nature, art and science. He was best known as a talented and admired painter. Two of the most well-known paintings in the world were done by Leonardo, The Last Supper and the Mona Lisa. Lesser known, especially in his day, is the fact that he was one of the first people to really study biology and the anatomy of humans. He secretly cut open lots of corpses to study the body and then made detailed drawings from what he learned. At that point in history, dissecting a corpse was considered a crime and was punishable by death. But that was how badly Leonardo wanted to learn. He was also an inventor, combining art with engineering to create sketches of possible inventions that were years ahead of their time. For example, he designed a kind of helicopter that he called an air screw. This was of course before flight had been invented, or the motorized car for that matter. He lived in a time when wars were frequent, so he designed city walls, fortified structures for defense purposes, and thought up new types of weapons, including a giant crossbow. With such a brilliant mind, what couldn't he accomplish?
Well, alright! We hope you enjoyed that! You just did it! The first chapter of the topic! Now, just so you know, there are 4 more chapters to go in this app, and it will only take you about 45 more minutes to complete, and you are totally done! Now check this out! The app also comes with about 15 pages of analysis and summary that you can download and use any way you need to. Here's what you gotta do. You gotta click the link below and go directly to the Apple App Store and download the full app. It's fast and easy to do. Thanks for watching, everybody.